But first, it's been revealed at last. Station Z, the secret centre where Hitler's deputy Rudolf Hess was interrogated after he flew to Britain on an apparent peace mission.
It's Mytchett Place, a manor house near Farnborough in Surrey. Confirmation comes from MI5 files released today by the Public Records Office. But as Malcolm Stewart reports, many questions are still unanswered.
Today, Mytchett Place is the European research centre for an American automotive company. In 1941, it was the top-secret Station Z, used by MI6 to question Rudolf Hess after he amazed both Germany and Britain by crash-landing a Messerschmitt in Scotland. And if those wartime days seem lost in history, today, just a mile and a half from Mytchett Place, these teenagers were hearing first-hand testimony of the Nazi regime. Gina Turgel had the next bunk to Anne Frank in the Belsen concentration camp. They were both a similar age to these students at the Farnborough Sixth Form College.
They live in freedom. Wonderful. But in order for them to appreciate the freedom, they should also know how it happened, what happened during the war.
And if the mission of Rudolf Hess had succeeded, they would have been living in a very different Europe. I gained a personal insight into the German reaction to Hess's flight to Scotland in 1974 when I interviewed Albert Speer, the former Reich armaments minister who had actually spent 20 years in Spandau jail with Hess. Speer had also been in Hitler's office when the news came through in 1941 of Hess's apparent defection. He said the Führer had plainly known nothing about it. But he went on to say that had Hess persuaded Britain to withdraw from the war, then he would have returned home as a hero. And the only apparent repentant Nazi went on to tell me in a rather chilling way that this would have then given the Germans a clear hand against the Russians, and it would certainly have been a very different outcome to the war. Instead, of course, Hess was taken here to Mytchett Place, and the British authorities concluded that he was mad. But a historian who's made a detailed study of Hess believes that merely suited both Britain and Germany.
Churchill was a politician, and he may have feared that there would be many people in the United Kingdom who would think, well, maybe it's not such a bad idea to make peace after all. So that it was conceivable that Hess's arrival in Britain could provoke some sort of a revolt against Churchill's policy of outright war against the Nazis.
Keeping the Deputy Führer at Mytchett Place denied him access to people of influence who might have listened to his arguments and opted for peace at the price of a Nazi-dominated Europe. Perhaps the remoteness of this house served history well. Malcolm Stewart at Mytchett for Meridian Tonight.